everyone, and welcome to Intentional Living with Ben and Sharon. And as you can tell, I have two beautiful guests today, and we're excited to have them. And as you can tell, Ben is he's behind the scenes today, so we thank him for all his technical work that he's been doing to make this possible. But I want to introduce to you first our guests, and then we'll talk about what we're going to talk about. So we have Marie Fryson. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and that is what she does for a living, and she is here today to encourage and answer some questions. And we have Donna Kingsley, and she is a board-certified mental health coach. And so we are excited about this event that we have coming up this coming Saturday, and it is called Anchored in Hope. And we are really excited about it. It's really a support conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is. And that's going to be Saturday, April the 25th. And we'll remind you again at the end of the podcast. But it's Saturday, April the 25th at Genesis Church, here at Genesis Church at 10 a.m. It's 10 to 12 p.m., 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. The address here is 3833 Highway 178. Morville. So we would love to see you here, and we're going to just start with a little bit about what this. I know kind of toward the end of my notes here, I had a lot of people get confused about grief and what grief is, and they automatically assume that it is just from like the loss of a loved one, or or something like that with death and things like that. But there's a whole list of, and I know that you watching and listening here can attest to this in your life, that you grieved in many situations and many things. So we're just going to start. I'm just going to ask y'all some questions, and Donna, I'll start with you, if that's okay. So what does it really mean to be anchored in hope when you're walking through deep loss?
Well, and let me backtrack for just a second. Sure. You mentioned just then about different types of grief.
Yes.
We can have different types of grief based on different types of losses, and it is more than just death. Yes. I mean, you know that people with chronic illnesses, mm-hmm. they go through a grief process mm-hmm. because of the life they once lived is totally different.
Right.
You've got job losses, you have divorces. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a multitude yes. of different types of losses. So we aren't just
life-changing events.
Absolutely.
I mean, it can cause. So yes. There's many different things.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about being anchored in hope, first off, being anchored in hope doesn't mean that we're not hurting. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. By all means, we are hurting, but that what it means is the fact that our pain is not the final word.
Right. Yes.
Our hope is found through Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Because Jesus is described as our anchor.
Yes.
He's steady. He's, he is secure, and he's with us through all types of storms, no matter what that storm is. Mm-hmm. So, God's still faithful, no matter what we're going through. Yes. And I like the expression of hope being a confident expectation.
Yes.
So that's what anchored in hope means to me.
Yes.
Is I have a confident expectation of what the future is going to hold, no matter what's happening right now.
And it's really impossible to begin to recover and to get to the other side of that truly without Jesus.
That's right.
It really is. So just another quick question. Mm-hmm. Why is grief such an important part of the Christian journey, rather than something like to rush through? Like, a lot of people, it's like when you're hurting, all you want is for it to stop. Mm-hmm. No matter what it is, if it's physical, if it's mental, or whatever. So, we know what the Word says about that. So that's my question for our listeners here to answer that question. So why is it so important to do it the right way?
Well, and honestly, too, sometimes people will tell us just to move on, get over it, move on. And that is not the correct way to handle it. We have to go through the process, because if you don't go through the process, then you cannot get true healing from everything. We've got to walk through what has been put before us. Grief is not a sign of weak faith either.
No.
It's actually an evidence of love. I mean, look at Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jesus wept. He grieved. He grieved, even grieved toward the cross, because he was about to die for us, So when we're grieving, when we're going through something, he knows exactly how we feel, and he meets us in it.
He does.
So in order for us to heal properly, we've got to go through the process.
Absolutely.
And he'll walk it with us.
Oh, he will. He will. We can testify to that.
Mm-hmm.
I know both of you. Marie, I've known you almost every day of your life. And Donna, we go back to junior high days. We are not going to tell you what year, but that's okay. To junior high years, and we raised children and grandchildren together. And I say that to say this: we've been through many times together in our lives, and we have found God faithful.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you, of all the clinical things you can do, and there are, and we're going to talk about all that, yes. I mean, there are medicines to take when you are sick physically, and there's things that you do. So there are things that you do naturally. Oh, but the supernatural is Jesus Christ. When you invite him in, then you can heal. Then you can heal. So I don't want to get stuck, because I got a couple more for you, and then we're gonna talk to Marie about a couple of things. But so for someone who feels stuck in their own grief, what is a step that they can take toward healing, like today? What is a step that they can take toward that for today?
So if they feel stuck, well, one thing is just taking care of themselves. So very basic steps. So I'm going to kind of speak more on grief loss, death.
Yes.
So sometimes, we don't know the day or the hour, do we?
Right.
Sometimes we know someone's struggling through sickness, and we kind of know that their life's coming to an end, and then there's tragedy. But even still, grief is grief, and we may experience it a little differently, depending on how we've experienced it in other times in our life too.
Mm-hmm.
So the basic thing, if you feel stuck, sit with yourself and try to figure out, what are you stuck with? Is there hurt? Is there, of course, a lot of times there's things we wish we could have said, and a lot of hurt in that way. But if you feel stuck, what do you need in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
If it's communication, friendship, nutrition, just caring for yourself in general.
Because a lot of times through the process, especially if, and we have some family that is going through this right now, if you have a loved one who's been sick for a long time and you've been their caregiver, it's very, very taxing and stressful, and you kind of let yourself go.
Yeah.
And and now all of a sudden it's grief, and then it's the fact that you are so worn out. And I think we do have to be careful if we get our feelings so tied up in that, because we are worn out, because we are experiencing that. I do think there are people who feel stuck because they don't know what to do.
Like, they've done all they can do, right?
That's it.
So if we've done all we can do, what we do?
Yes, stand.
So, but yes, call on people that you trust,
Yes.
In those hard times, and but taking care of. When was the last time you ate?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes brushing your teeth that day is a win,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
If you feel stuck, being honest about it. There's no right or wrong way to grieve, and you'll hear me say that, and you kind of mentioned that earlier. Sometimes we think it should be better or faster or quicker, or am I doing it the correct way? In other cultures, they do have rules to grieving. you know, in other countries.
They give you so long.
And what you can wear, and don't come out of your home. And, you know, we are fortunate here to be able to grieve how we need
Absolutely.
to. So.
Absolutely. So, when somebody experiences loss, what's one of the biggest misconceptions you see?
So, the right way or wrong way to do it, getting over it, moving on. What I say is moving forward. We don't move on, you know.
Yes.
A lot of times people mean well, but they can say some of the, not think about what they say, right? So,
because that sentence specifically, I'm just moving on, it implies that you're leaving something.
Right. And so a lot of my clients think that that's exactly what they're doing. They're leaving their loved one in the past, and that is one of the hardest things to work with, especially if they've lost a child. That's a big one as well. So, you know, how to do it correctly, there is no correct way. It's a very individual process. A wrong way to do it is not to face it at all and try to get through each day and be numb with it and not meet the needs of yourself. And so, but the biggest conceptions is, you know, the right way or wrong way, getting over it, letting go, moving on, those kinds of things. So,
and to think, I'm not I'm a pastor and a pastor's wife. I'm not a counselor. I'm not certified, but I believe that I could add this to that. Is one thing for certain is to definitely know that you are not stuck,
right,
and that you can be free and get on the other side of this. And it doesn't mean that you don't love, even if it's a divorce. If it is something, because a lot of times it's out of your control, and then you may sit with, what if I've done this and what if I've done that? Well, you know, and then you feel like if you move on, it means that you have failed, and that you don't care about, and that please hear us in this podcast. Please, where you're at, hear us. That is a lie, and because Satan wants you to believe that so that you will stay in this place and it just sucks the life right out of you and pulls you down. So there is hope, and I really hope that you'll take advantage of this support conference and come if you're experiencing any of these types of feelings, this support. So for someone who's currently grieving over whatever it may be, and like I said, it's not this is, we're not just specifically talking about the loss of a loved one for any reason. If you are stuck, if you feel like that and you're currently grieving, what are a few simple things I think you may have covered this just a minute ago, to start taking care of themselves. People, when they're grieving and when they're because they can fall into depression, and then that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You know, when there's also with grieving, no right or wrong way to do it, other than not facing it, right? But there is a point where it becomes maybe abnormal in a way to where you might need to seek further help. And so if they find themselves in that kind of manner, they would need to reach out, even if it's to their pastor or to a small group, or finding others who maybe have a grief group to go and just kind of meet people and hear their stories too, because a lot of times we feel alone in everything in our lives. A lot of times that's the devil.
Because if it's happening to you, he likes to seclude you and make you feel like you're the only person on the earth who's facing that, or who feels that way, or yours is worse than anybody else's. You know, we've all experienced that in some way or another. So you'll also talk about continuing bonds. Can you explain what that means?
So, continuing bonds is ways to move forward with your loved one in your life. So, just because they are gone physically does not mean they have to be gone from you. Especially if you lost parents, you are part of your parents, right? 50-50,
Yes.
I guess we
Yes.
can say. But you can move forward with their values and beliefs, and how they raised you. Now I know, of course, that some people do not have good relationships with their parents, and they may be going on, and then there's some grief with that, right? So grief within grief, but continuing bonds are just ways to move forward with their spirit, or just their being with you. And physically, they're not with you, but how to respect them and move forward with them. Even simple things as in having their picture in your home.
Yes.
Little things like that. We, every holiday, I'll cook. Well, I try to cook our mothers.
Let me tell you something about these two. They're actually sisters. So
Can I guess?
some inside jokes here. So go ahead.
So mom died in 2009, and since 2009, I've tried to cook her Parmesan potatoes for Christmas.
Ever since 2009.
It's 2026 now.
I've almost mastered it. So yeah, little things like that, that you can carry with you and keep their presence alive. In those moments. So, but especially their values. I know you've had godly people within your life and that taught you and are still teaching you things. So,
yeah, and it's very important. Sometimes I think people do get lost in grief and forget to remember what a blessing and how. And I think for me, I know when I've grieved the loss of some dear loved ones in my life, and it's okay to stay there for a minute, but don't live there.
Right.
Don't live there. It's not a place. It's just there was an old, I think it was the McCamey song, and a lot of you don't know who the McCameys were, but anyway, that's another story. But it says it wasn't a place to live. It was just a place to spend the night, talking about the grave of Jesus. So we have to remember that it came to pass. It came to pass. And Jesus loves you, and He does not mean, it would not be an abundant life if we were expected to live it every day, hurting, grieving. But thank God that He has given us, first of all, His Word, which is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, and it doesn't go out and return void ever. And His Word says He watches over His Word to perform it. And what He's promised, He will do.
Absolutely.
And He's blessed us also with wonderful tools that we can have through counselors like you two, who you can put a face with somebody. Jesus lives inside of us, and we have inside, but then He gives us outside help too. He gives us people that we can actually go sit down with, look across the table at, who wants to help us and help us through that process. And it is a process. Can you name me anything in life that's not a process? I mean, I don't think, and y'all, they know me very well. I don't love to wait. I'm sorry, I don't. God's had to do a lot of work on me about patience and waiting, because it's like, oh, okay, let's do it. But it is a process. Everything is a process. And so if you are in the middle of this, what would you say to somebody who's in the middle of, they have begun to feel somewhat better, but they feel like they just need some extra? help? What would you say to somebody who can say, yes, I know there's hope. I know there's hope. I just am not sure what I should do right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel myself coming up. I feel myself feeling some better. I'll let both of you give an answer to that. So,
Keep on moving forward.
yes.
Yes, getting in, like she mentioned earlier, small groups. Get a close friend that you
Mhm.
feel confident in, that you know you can trust to keep in
Mhm.
confidence, and share with them. Come to
Yes.
things like what we're doing Saturday
Yes.
with our conference, because you make community then,
You do.
and you meet other people that's going down the same path you are.
Yes.
And when you feel that you're not alone going down
Mhm.
that path,
Mhm.
it helps.
Yes, and the power of, you may even look at somebody and say, oh my goodness, and have such empathy for someone who seemingly has went through something way worse than you.
Absolutely.
And you may feel like you may find your healing in helping someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And help and encourage. Go ahead. And you
Yeah, and that's what even with some of my clients, once they have processed and have moved forward, and like you said, feel a little better.
Mhm.
And then we start talking about, okay, how can you, with your story, help someone else?
Yes.
So we talk about that a good bit. And, we grieve and we hurt because we love someone.
Mhm.
And that's a blessing that we have
Yes.
loved someone. So, we're all appointed once to die, right?
Yes.
And it's funny, not funny, that, in church we talk about death because we have hope, right?
Mhm.
But outside
Mhm.
of the walls, we don't talk about death a lot.
Uh-huh.
But it's something we're all going to go through
Mhm.
and
Yes.
experience through losing
Yes.
others, and then
Everyone
Sure.
experiences
Yeah.
that in some capacity. And, and I would like to say this too. If you are going through some type of grief, maybe, like I said, maybe it's not death, maybe it's divorce. And maybe you are a mother who is raising children and trying to, it feels like you're muddling through and trying to raise children, and the whole world has caved in on you, and you feel like you don't know what to do, and you're grieving, and you're not talking to your kids about it. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go into that, because depending on the age of the children, there's just a lot of dynamics there. But I think it's very important that, obviously, we don't want to upset our children or anything, but we cannot forget that they had a loss too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that happen many times, that parents will be so devastated and they are not taking care of themselves, and the kids are just kind of left in limbo and don't know how to process everything either. So I would say, if that's you, what would y'all say in a situation like that? Like, what kind of advice would you give someone who's just like, I feel like it's all I can do to get up every day, and I don't want to talk to my kids about it and they think they're hiding it. But how many of you know kids know way more than what, and we leave them to just assume.
Yeah.
If we don't ever talk about our feelings, and obviously can't go into detail, but just go ahead and comment on that.
For me personally, if it's gotten to that depth,
Mhm.
like you said, almost can't function, for the parent needs to seek immediate professional help.
Yes.
And if you're a Christian, then you look for someone who aligns with that spiritual belief.
Yes.
More likely some individual counseling for even the teenagers or the children.
Yes.
And then family therapy as well.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because folks, you can find counseling about anywhere, but you want to find the right counselors to go to. You want to find someone who not only is very educated and knows what like you guys are. You're certified and you're licensed, and so you know the ins and outs, what things to do, what things not to do, and it's things that it's amazing. And you may think, well, I'm just going to go talk to them about my problems. No, they are going to give you tools, things that you've never thought about, things that you've never even thought about, and it'll be like, okay, that makes sense, or maybe that don't make sense, but I'm willing to try. Whatever it is, because we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
The Word of God says that you and I and we are fearfully and wonderfully made. That means respectfully and wonderfully. If God calls it wonderful, if God calls us wonderfully made, I mean, we were made with a body, a spirit, and a soul. We are a three-part being, just like Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. We are a three-part being, and so we have three parts to care for. And so we need to make sure that we seek the best. We need to seek godly counsel. The Word specifically says that we need to seek godly counsel. And so I know without a doubt that this is, and we're not, because there are many godly counselors. We're not saying that this is the only place. You please know that there are many that you could reach out to, but we're just saying, please make sure you don't want to go down some psychiatric path of whatever. Now that came from me, not them. But we want you to get the help that you need, and we all need this. If we don't, we will. If we don't now, we have needed that in the past. Just life, because it brings things that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever that is. I have been so thrilled to have y'all, and this is the first time that we've had a guest on Intentional Living. So it's usually Ben and I. So we had to get two pretty faces to come on here and be our first guest, but we are so thankful that you joined us, and we hope this has been helpful. We want to remind you again that it's going to be a support conference, and Donna and Marie are going to be here, and it's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. You're going to get a lot of information. So if you know someone, if you have a family member who is going through something, it doesn't matter what kind of grief it is. Even if it's depression, whatever kind of need, mental, spiritual, whatever need that it might be, this is a wonderful place to be. And it's this coming Saturday, April the 25th, beginning at 10 a.m. It'll be from 10 to 12. Surely you can just spare those 2 hours to come and get a wealth of information to help you. And it's at Genesis Church, 3833 Highway 178 in Moorville. And you will not be sorry. But God bless you. Marie, thank you. Donna, thank you. And we'll do this again. And we'll report back about what an awesome conference this has been. So we hope to see you there this coming Saturday. God bless. We love you. And until next time, Ben and Sharon, Intentional Living.